So he's Nalanda master.
Is it coming?
He gave presentation about Buddha Dharma, Ubaya site as well as Parija site.
The Pegin Achik Yushaw.
Really wonderful. Since day
Nalanda Lobin Chambo, Pendu Judin, the Sobat Dog, Zebe, Denju, Denzo, Ani, Topna, Shirp, Nige, Chane, and Beshirag, Ship Sabuchini.
Then, you see these things.
So, Yaris.
So we can, so
Around the Koran, Zebe, Denju, the Zongos, Jegu Yaris.
easily understand these things. So therefore,
Ani, Lona, the Dejin.
I think about 40 years ago, one occasion, you say then I already sort of developed some sort of desire, some wish, see, discuss with modern scientists. So then, some my friend is give me warning. Science is a killer of Dharma. Then I reflect Buddha's own word. Already mentioned yesterday, the bhikshus, scholars of Buddha's own follower, they say, should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. So this is a very scientific way. I already took liberty to reject existence of Mount Meru. So in the eyes of orthodox practitioner or Dalai Lama, not necessarily, I think, genuine Buddhist. Mount Meru and the size and the height, all, you see, detailed described by Vasubandhu. Vasubandhu, the younger brother of Kasa, Tommy Kasa, Arya Asanga. So some people, even you see some Tibetan old monk, when I sort of mentioned that, they told me, you see, I think politely, initially they feel a little uncomfortable when Dalai Lama publicly reject the existence of Mount Meru, and I accept the round world. Actually, you see, some scholars say 5th century, one Nalanda master, you see, already described the world is round. So sometimes I jokingly telling, I am reincarnation of that person. Sangye yende same jo, Shuje yende same jo, Bhagavad yende same tevla dejeve namra meva same namda shingla shava bu.
तो पहले परम पावन जी के ऐसे प्लान किया कि जो नालंदा के
So we're not going to say the 17 Nalanda Masters praise because the organizers have decided to do it tomorrow.
तो उन्होंने जो नालंदा के 17 विद्वान थे, उन्होंने भगवान बुद्ध की रचनाओं को या उनके भगवान बुद्ध के जो सूत्र थे, उनको बड़ी कुशलता के साथ, कारणों के साथ सरलीकृत किया है। तो ये सारी चीज़ें बड़े अनुभव के द्वारा, बड़े एक्सपीरियंस के द्वारा या जांच पड़ताल के द्वारा उन्होंने व्याख्या की है कि जो यहाँ पर या इस दुनिया में जो भी लोग बुद्धिमान लोग हैं, जो प्रज्ञावान लोग हैं वो नागार्जुन या अन्य नालंदा के विद्वान के द्वारा रचना की गई है, जिन ग्रंथों की रचना की गई उनको समझ सकते हैं अपनी प्रज्ञा का उपयोग करके कि किस प्रकार से उनकी व्याख्या की गई है। तो आज से लगभग 40 वर्ष पूर्व मेरे विज्ञान के प्रति, साइंटिस्ट लोगों के प्रति और खासकर आधुनिक जो विज्ञान है उसके प्रति जानने की काफ़ी लालसा जागृत हुई। तो मैंने वैज्ञानिक लोगों से मुलाकात की और उनसे मिला। तो कुछ वैज्ञानिक लोग इस प्रकार से कह रहे थे कि आधुनिक विज्ञान धर्म की हत्या करने वाले हैं, अर्थात जो धर्म है वो माफ़ करना, जो कि विज्ञान है वो धर्म के एक प्रकार के महापुरुष द्वारा कहा गया है। जैसा कि मैंने कल भी जिक्र किया था कि उसको अपनी परीक्षण करके उसको जिस प्रकार के सुना सोने को रगड़ कर तप करके और काट करके देखता है कि सच्चा सोना है कि नहीं, उसी प्रकार से आप मेरी शिक्षाओं को परीक्षण करना चाहिए। तो उक्त बातें जो भी यहाँ भगवान बुद्ध ने स्पष्ट रूप से विश्वों के लिए, स्कॉलर लोगों के लिए संदेश दिया है, उसके हिसाब से मैं मानना चाहिए। तो हम लोग भी, जैसा कि मैं अपनी बात कहूँ तो मैं जो सुमेरु पर्वत है, माउंट मेरू, उसके अस्तित्व को मैं नकारता हूँ कि उसका अस्तित्व नहीं है, ऐसी बातें मैं जानता हूँ। क्योंकि अधर्म को उसमें जैसे कि रसबंधु और दिग्नाथ इनके ग्रंथों में देखा जाए तो उनकी व्याख्या की गई है। तो मैं मानता हूँ कि इस तरह से जो पहले आचार्यों ने एक ग्रंथ की जो रचना की है उसमें इसके अस्तित्व को स्वीकारा है, लेकिन मैं आज इस 21वीं शताब्दी में इसे नकारने में कोई बुराई नहीं है। क्योंकि अपनी जो सोच विचार के अनुसार परीक्षण के दौरान वो हमारी प्रज्ञा पर फिट नहीं बैठने की वजह से उसको नकारने में कोई असंगत नहीं होगी। तो कुछ स्कॉलर लोग ऐसा भी कहते हैं कि नालंदा की 5वीं शताब्दी में विद्वान वहाँ पर उत्पन्न हुए जिन्होंने इस प्रकार की व्याख्या की है, और उन्होंने भी इस बात को माना है कि जो पहले जो पृथ्वी की या इस दुनिया की बात की जाए कि जो बात गोल कहते हैं, तो उन्होंने भी इस बात को 5वीं शताब्दी में स्वीकार किया। वैज्ञानिक लोगों ने अभी उसकी बात को माने हैं, लेकिन 5वीं शताब्दी में नालंदा के विद्वानों ने कहा कि ये पृथ्वी ये गोल है। वो पहले से यहाँ पर भगवान बुद्ध के वचनों में इसका जिक्र हो चुका है।
So therefore, you see, then I start serious discussions with scientists. Now over 30 years, mainly cosmology. I think in principle, the 4 or 5 elements are the basis of all these galaxies coming, they disappear or dissolve. The same. So, quite interesting discuss with scientists about cosmology, like Big Bang theory. So if some scientists, of course, it's understandable, just one Big Bang. From the Buddhist viewpoint, no, limitless Big Bang. Okay. Otherwise, it's difficult to say, why just one Big Bang? If you if you take concept of God, and yes, God just wish or just one Big Bang, then again further question, why? Complicated. Of course, I respect all major world tradition, theistic religion, wonderful. Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, different sort of Hindu traditions, all. And I think later Sikhism, really non-sectarian, wonderful. So all these major world tradition, you see, really brings immense sort of benefit or inspiration to humanity. In the past, I think more 2,000 to 3,000 years, and at present also, millions of people get sort of immense sort of benefit and give hope. In life, hope is very important. Once you see completely sort of become hopeless, then it is a serious matter. So these various different institutions provide hope. Very good. And then, as I mentioned yesterday, all major world institutions, see, their main teaching, main practice is practice of love. Wonderful. However, one time I met my Indian friend, very religious-minded. So that he asked me very seriously, since whole world created by God, God means infinite love. So among his creature, there are mischievous people. Why God created that? He asked me this question. Then there is no sort of difficult to answer that. Then I told him, half joke, half serious. Since God creates hell, so there must be someone who ready to go hell. So otherwise, no use to create hell. So among his creature, some should be mischievous. Then the creation of hell is not meaningless, some meaning there. Okay. So in the Nagarjuna, yes, some his writing, you see, he raised sort of some serious questions. Then mainly his disciple Aryadeva, you see, all different sort of school of thought, you see, he mentioned, and then sort of they discuss. Then Vavabega, in his writing, so the all existing different school of thought at that time in India, he mentioned, and each case serious sort of comparison or something like that. So in any way, the Sanskrit tradition, as I mentioned earlier, much emphasis, reasons, and experience. So that is, I think, wonderful. So therefore, as the result of over 30 years sort of serious discussion with scientists, or the cosmology, number one, then neurobiology, then physics, particularly quantum physics. Very interesting. Then, the psychology. So 4 fields. So years of experience. You see, it really immense help to enriching each other. We Buddhists, for example, the Big Bang, scientists have some detailed sort of explanation. And of course, world round, sun and the moon, big differences of distance. The same level. But then the size also is not much differences, moon and sun. So sometimes I, with respect, a little bit joke, when Basubandhu writes, Abhidhamma naturally his age quite old, so his eyesight not very good. So he tried to look sun when little cloudy day. And he felt, oh, size of moons and suns more or less same. He have no sort of instrument measure distance or these things. And about light, these things is not available at that time. So then, of course, Buddha, enlightened sort of person, he should know, but he, one time, many years ago, I think 50 years ago, one occasion, I mentioned very purpose of Buddha's sort of, Buddha coming or appear on this planet, not making mad. His main sort of, the purpose of his sort of appearance on this planet is how to reduce suffering, how to achieve sort of permanent happiness. So Four Noble Truths, you see, he taught. Not measurement of these things. So later, some of his followers, they tried to make some measurement of these things, and now seems to see many of them become wrong. Like that. So these masters, really, really very, very brilliant. So now today's world, among the scientists, some scientists, and I think more and more scientists, now really showing interest to learn. This is some sort of explanation from some of these Buddhist texts. And as far as psychology is concerned, ancient Indian psychology, highly developed, really. So as far as the psychology or the science of mind is concerned, it's common. The Indian sort of also the non-Buddhist tradition and Buddhist tradition, these are same. And since Indian sort of the spiritual tradition, the practice of samadhi, practice of vipassana, so automatically the more explanation about system of our mind, paranya, wisdom. So the explanation about emotion, about mind, you see, it's common. So therefore, I usually describe not Buddhist psychology, but ancient Indian psychology. So ancient Indian psychology, compare modern psychology, then the modern psychology looks like kindergarten level. Really. Ancient Indian psychology, highly developed. So now I really feel time come, share this knowledge with other human brothers, sisters. And particularly now, at a time, now a lot of man-made problem, including violence, killing, starvation. Look, Middle East, terrible. Even religion also use or causing conflict, discrimination. When we saw picture of young children due to starvation, their face terrible. And see, one human being killed by a tiger or elephant, sometimes it's something quite sort of shocking news. But a human being killing another human being, now more or less now normal. It's really terrible. So we are part of 7 billion human beings. Humanity as a social animal. So individuals' future depend on rest of the humanity. So humanity happy, individual automatically become happier person. Humanity, lot of killing. Huge gap, rich and poor. And corruptions. Then I think each individual, of course those who really concerned about the well-being of human being or well-being of this planet, then you see, naturally feeling some serious feeling. So therefore, irrespective whether believer or non-believer, now time comes, we must make effort to bring this century, peaceful century. I believe these very sad event we are facing is, I believe, symptom of 20th century's mistake, 20th century's negligence. So, if present sort of way of thinking, way of life carry continuously, then this century, 21st century, also become a century of bloodshed, century of suffering. So now, past is past. Nobody can change past. Future yet to come. So, if I think other sentient beings, animals, they have no ability to think, to act. Only we human beings. So the responsibility lying on 7 billion human beings. Our present sort of way of thinking, way of life, more materialistic life, only external values, then this century will not be happy century. Now time come, have to think about our inner value. The very existing education system itself very much oriented about material value, external value. Now time come in education field, we should include awareness about our inner value. So in education should include some sort of study or some lesson about our inner value. Here, ancient Indian knowledge about mind, emotion is very, very relevant. Not as a religious matter, no, as an academic subject. These days I'm describing we learned hygiene of physical. So similarly, hygiene of emotion is very relevant, isn't it? So through education, so therefore we already working now last several years in India also, and in America also. You see, we are now already sort of committed, try to make some sort of curriculum strictly based on secular sort of concept. So according to Indian understanding, you know, secular means not distance or disrespect of religion, isn't it? According to Indian understanding, secular means respect all religion and also respect a non-believer. That is something very unique and relevant in today's world. It's out of 7 billion human beings, over 1 billion non-believer. So among the believer also, some quite strange believers also there. These are, I think, a lack of conviction about the value of moral principle. So through education, if you see we can, if you see develop a person or children who already sort of through reason, conviction or moral principle, truthful, honest, more compassionate. I think yesterday I mentioned the human nature, compassion. Recent years, this is some meeting with scientists. Some scientists, this is a well-known scientist, they carry certain, they experiment. Very, very young infant child. I also saw, that picture. Very young, about 4 or 5 months old, language not yet developed. And to that child, show one cartoon. Two children helping each other, playing together, playing each other, showing smile. That sort of cartoon show that infant child, the child also smiling. Sort of happy sort of expression. Then another cartoon, two children, negative attitude, one another. That picture shows that child unhappy, some kind of resentment, that kind of attitude. And then more important, the constant fear, anger, hatred, they experienced. Then eventually our immune system reduces. Other hand, calm mind, full of self-confidence. Then less fear. So immune system maintain and sometimes even increasing. So health viewpoint, peace of mind is very essential. So how to bring peaceful mind? As I mentioned earlier, confidence, hope, anger, jealousy brings more fear. Other hand, sense of concern of others' well-being. We are a social animal. I myself used to practice that. I myself used to practicing that. When I think I'm something special, I'm Dalai Lama. Then out of 7 billion human beings, only one Dalai Lama. Then I feel lonely. When I think I'm one of the 7 billion human beings, then 7 billion brothers, sisters there. Mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. And most important, we all want happy life. And we all have a right to achieve happy life. On that level, no differences. So then, so whenever I meet people, I talk, I always consider I'm one of them. And simply share my own experience. Usually, you see, according, secular way, not talking about religion. In the West, I never try to propagate Buddhism. In the West, they have their own Judeo-Christian background and some extent Muslim. So it is much better, safer to keep their own traditional life or traditional culture and particularly traditional religion. It's much better. Sometimes you see, change religion without much sort of serious thinking. sometimes create more problem. So it is better to keep one's own faith. In India, yes, multi-religious sort of nation. Buddhism is one of your own traditional religion. And then like China, Buddhist country, historically Buddhist country, and Vietnam, Korea, Japan, and of course Burma, Thailand, Sri Lanka, all these traditionally Buddhist country, like that. So now time come. As a Buddhist, you see, just keep one's own sort of knowledge. I think now, in 21st century, whether we like it or not, more sort of acquaintance, more sort of contact with outside world, and also in moral principle, all 7 million human beings are same human being, same right. So whatever, you see, we have some sort of useful knowledge, then time comes to share. Not Buddhist philosophy. In one time in South India, in Bangalore, I met one sadhu, wonderful guru. So he really committed to provide meals to 1,000 students. So he invited, and then you see between certain sort of program, we just say casual talk. Then I told him, practice of Shila, practice of Samatha or Shamatha or Samadhi, the practice of Vipassana, same. Hindu tradition, Buddhist tradition, same. This is a common practice. Then the differences is concept of Atma and Anatma. So I told him, that's our private business. I found Anatma theory is very useful. So I practice that. You find Atma theory is more useful. So you believe that, that's private business. Like that. And then I think a concept of creator, also like that. One occasion in Holland, after my talk, is one question. One questioner, you see, asked me, the one lady, she find very useful, sort of very helpful, the concept of creator. In my talk, I merely mentioned theistic religion, non-theistic religion, these things. So she asked me this question. You see, she found the concept of creator is very, very helpful. Then, what should do? Then, the same answer. It's your business. You see, those people who feel the concept of creator is more comfortable, more hopeful, more easily understandable, well, then you should follow that. Like the Buddhist concept, no soul, no self, often you see create misunderstanding. So Buddhist philosophical view looks like, to such people, looks like nihilism, isn't it? So then, you see, according to individuals or mental disposition, we have right to choose what kind of philosophy. The important is we are human being. We want peaceful mind. So therefore, even non-believer, we should be more compassionate human being. That's no choice. We want happy life. We want healthy body. So this peace of mind, the ultimate source of peace of mind is compassion. It's something very, very useful, very important. Like that. So, Dr. Jason, I think too long. So now you Indian, as a spiritual brothers, sisters, particularly as an ancient Indian sort of tradition, so you, each individual you, should make effort, to educate other people, to share other people. The inner value is very important. Then eventually, when we are ready, the draft of secular ethics come. Then try to share more people, and if possible, your own area, these sort of, the curriculum of secular ethics, and then make experiment in your own area, some school. Then, to experiment some positive. In America, at least a few cities, they create name of kindness and compassion. It's a city of compassion, city of kindness. So, with that name, within the city, in school, some talks, some sort of lessons about kindness and compassion. As a result, school children much more peaceful, much less restlessness like that. So like that, so strictly according the secular way, not talking about Buddha, about God, about next life. Just try to create happy life and a happy world. So, you, my brothers, sisters, so whenever you have some opportunity, and try to share with more people. Our present way of thinking, present way of life continuously, then I think this century, this 21st century also, I think a difficult century. So since, as I mentioned earlier, basic human nature is more compassionate. Therefore, there is a real hope. Our intelligence must make supporter of these basic human nature, compassion. Then, I think, within my lifetime, I will not see. But next, I think those people, usually I call generation of 20th century and the generation of 21st century. Me and these gentlemen, we are the generation of 20th century. So our century already gone. So we are ready to say bye-bye. Our politicians now already resigned because of age. So me also, my case not only age, but also is I totally committed about democracy. Therefore, 2011, I totally retired from political responsibility. That not only myself retired, but also 4th century old tradition. Dalai Lama institution automatically become head of both temple and spirituality. Now that voluntarily, happily, proudly cease now. So, my case, not only my age, but also is I feel now our old system is outdated, more or less related with the feudal system. That must stop. I really love democracy. So sometimes healthy democracy, sometimes unhealthy democracy. So that depends on education and experience, people. India, I think, generally speaking, I think wonderful. democracy, deeply rooted, wonderful. Sometimes a little difficult happen. That's more or less now nature of a politician. I don't know. In any way, so therefore, the generation of 20th century, now we already ready to say bye-bye. So now, the generation of 21st century, you people whose age is below 30, 20, 15, you are generation of 21st century. So now it is your responsibility to make effort to bring peaceful century. So sometimes I jokingly expressing the generation of 20th century, we create a lot of problems on this planet. Now let them solve. So sometimes I jokingly telling, when I met some students, some young people, if you make effort now, end of this century can be more peaceful century, more compassionate century. It is very possible through education, not through prayer, but through education and through action. We have a century-old concept of karma. Karma means action. So everything is entirely based on action, karma, not wish or prayer, like that. So therefore, when you see the later part of the century, of course, I will not be there. So I jokingly was telling, either at that time, after now say 20 years, 30 years, I no longer here, no more here, but either maybe in heaven or hell. No. Even in hell, so I can take some. I will get some permission to visit world. Then I will watch this 20th century's doing, 21st century sort of people's doing. If you carry really sort of compassionate way, meaningful way, then when I return to hell, I will report the concerned sort of sentient being on the hell. Now time come, the size of hell should reduce. Other hand, still a lot of trouble, lot of killing still going on. Then I will report, hell should expand. So a lot of people ready to come. So I earnestly appeal you, and particularly the generation of 21st century. The future is our own hand. Of course, nature disaster, these are something different, beyond our control. But violence or discriminations, due to that, so what is it, starvation, or these things, since we created these things, so we have the responsibility to solve these things. So I often used to telling Sometimes you see, we create a lot of problem, but in the meantime, pray to God or pray to Buddha, please bring peace. I often used to mentioning, if we actually, you see, have the opportunity meeting with Buddha or Jesus Christ or some other sort of spiritual leaders, spiritual founders, you see, please create peace on this planet, bring peace. Then I think those founders, I think Jesus Christ or Buddha, may tell who created these violence. Not Buddha, not Jesus Christ, or these sort of spiritual masters, but we human beings. We use karsa chuti, sikji or karsa, inji sikji karsa de. No. A free will, isn't it? Buddha or God give us free will. So we use free will wrong way, isn't it? So you see, Jesus Christ say, all these troublemaker, not God, but by you. So it is your responsibility to solve this problem. So you create a problem and ask Buddha or God bring peace. Illogical, isn't it? No? Like that. So therefore, now, I always used to talking these things whenever I met people and opportunity to talk. So I take this opportunity to share with you. Please think more seriously. Then, as I mentioned earlier, you see, practice of anatma, and accordingly, you see, Teata, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Buddhisa. That's the Buddhist practitioner, our unique way. Like that. So, translate essence, not whole.
बाबू जी ने कहा कि पिछले कई वर्षों से 30-40 वर्षों से विज्ञान को लोगों के साथ में वार्तालाप हुए, तो खास करके कॉस्मोलॉजी और जो 5 तत्व आकाश इत्यादि, इसके द्वारा किस प्रकार से चीज़ों की और किस प्रकार से वर्चक्र बनते हैं या पृथ्वी बनती है। तो इसके अतिरिक्त भी बिग बैंग थ्योरी कि एक प्रकार की बिग बैंग थ्योरी हुई या अन्य प्रकार की या कई प्रकार से हुई, उनके बारे में भी काफ़ी डिस्कशन हुआ और काफ़ी चर्चाएं हुई हैं। क्योंकि वैज्ञानिक के लोगों के अनुसार ऐसा माना जाता है कि एक प्रकार की ये घटनाएँ हुई थी, जबकि बौद्ध धर्म के अनुसार इसको कई बार ऐसी घटनाएँ हुई हैं, ऐसा ग्रंथों में देखने को मिलता है। लेकिन फिर यहाँ पर एक प्रश्न उठता है कि आखिर एक ही बिग बैंग थ्योरी क्यों, इसके बारे में भी हमें जांच पड़ताल करनी चाहिए। क्योंकि सभी धर्मों के लोगों की अगर बात करें तो एक दूसरे के हित के लिए बात की जाती है, करुणा, मैत्री, प्रेम इत्यादि के लिए ही उसमें सभी धर्मों में व्याख्या देखने को मिलती है। तो पिछले कई हजारों के दौरान देखें तो लोगों को फ़ायदा हुआ है, अभी तक फ़ायदा हो रहा है और आने वाले भविष्य में भी लोगों को फ़ायदा होगा। तो धर्म एक प्रकार से अगर देखें तो एक उम्मीद है, तो उसके सहारे हम अपने जीवन को जीते हैं, एक उम्मीद पर कायम रहते हैं। इसलिए विभिन्न परंपराएं जो भी भारत में आने हों, वो एक प्रकार की उम्मीद है, उन उम्मीदों के सहारे लोग रहते हैं। जबकि सभी धर्मों की अगर सार के रूप में देखें तो प्रेम, करुणा, मैत्री ही सबका संदेश होता है। तो मेरे एक मित्र हैं जो काफ़ी पुराने मित्र हैं, भारतीय हैं, और उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि जो भी ये जगत है, जो भी ये संसार है, भगवान ने बनाया है, भगवान के द्वारा बनाया हुआ है। तो मैंने उनसे भी कहा कि ठीक है, भगवान ने अगर बनाया है तो आप लोग जो भी इसको मानते हैं, तो आपकी जो मान्यता है वो आपके लिए ठीक है। तो इस प्रकार के अलग अलग मान्यताओं के लोग भी प्रश्न जब रखते हैं तो उनके उसी हिसाब से क्या उनकी सोच उस हिसाब से करना चाहिए कि अगर मेरे लिए अगर ये इन लोगों से मैं इस प्रकार के जो धर्म अनुयायी लोग हैं हमेशा कहता हूँ कि आप अपने मातृ धर्म को मानिए, क्योंकि आप अगर पुराने धर्म में छोड़ करके नए धर्म में अगर आते हैं तो उसे अपनाने में थोड़ी असहजता होती है, मुश्किल होती है। तो और नागार्जुन इत्यादि लोगों ने भी जहाँ पर उनके ग्रंथों की बात की जाए तो सारे के सारे ग्रंथों को अपने विवेक के द्वारा जांच पड़ताल करके ही उनको साक्षात करके ही उनकी रचना की है। तो संस्कृत परंपरा अगर देखा जाए तो ज़्यादातर वो कारण और हेतु पर किस प्रकार से कोई चीज़ अस्तित्व में आती है इसका वहाँ पर व्याख्यान देखने को मिलता है। उसके अतिरिक्त अनुभव और अपने अनुभव के आधार पर तो पिछले 30-40 वर्षों में मैं वैज्ञानिक लोगों के साथ मिलकर खास करके कॉस्मोलॉजी, न्यूरोबायोलॉजी और क्वांटम फिजिक्स इनके बारे में चर्चा की है कि इसका संबंध बौद्ध धर्म से किस प्रकार से है और ख़ास करके इसमें बौद्ध जो मनोविज्ञान है उसके बारे में पिछले 30-40 वर्षों से संवाद होते आ रहे हैं। तो इससे काफ़ी लाभ हुआ और एक प्रकार का करिकुलम भी बनाया जिससे कि लोगों को फ़ायदा हो सके, पढ़ सकें। आज के वैज्ञानिकों के पास देखें तो उनके पास डिटेल्स बहुत सारी होती है, सारी चीज़ों की गणना कर लेते हैं। जैसा कि अभिधर्म कोश में भी कहा गया है कि सूर्य और चांद की जो दूरी है लगभग समान है, उनका आकार भी लगभग समान है। तो ये तो बहुत खास करके अगर बौद्ध हैं तो उसमें इनका आकार किस प्रकार से है, छोटा बड़ा इसमें ज़्यादा न पड़े थे कि बौद्ध धर्म की शिक्षा है कि किस प्रकार से हमारे जो दुख हैं उनको नष्ट करना चाहिए, किस प्रकार से दुखों से क्लेशों से नष्ट होने प्रयास करना चाहिए, क्योंकि यही भगवान बुद्ध के सार है। और इसमें कोई तात्पर्य नहीं है कि अगर उन्हें गणना करने में बैठें तो ज़्यादा समय लग सकता है, उसमें समय की बर्बादी होगी। तो आज के युग में भी देखें कुछ वैज्ञानिक लोग बुद्धिस्ट टेक्स्ट को पढ़ना पसंद कर रहे हैं, जिससे कि जो पुरानी प्राचीन भारतीय साइकोलॉजी आज के लेकर जो प्राचीन भारतीय साइकोलॉजी या फिर अन्य हुआ क्वांटम फिजिक्स इत्यादि होते थे उसमें देखने को मिलते हैं, तो उनको करना चाहिए। इसमें चाहे वो नॉन बुद्धिस्ट हों या बुद्धिस्ट हों, जो सार के रूप में चीज़ें हैं, जो मूल रूप हैं, उनको हमें समझने की कोशिश करना चाहिए। यहाँ पर शील समाधि और विपश्यना, चाहे वो हिंदू हों या फिर अन्य परंपरा के मानने वाले बौद्धों में उनका लेवल लगभग समान होता है। तो इन्हें अपनी प्रज्ञा के स्तर पर जांचना चाहिए तो और किस प्रकार से दोनों को लाभदायक हो सके। तो एक वैज्ञानिक, काफ़ी प्रसिद्ध वैज्ञानिक हैं, उन्होंने बच्चों पर जो 3-4 महीने के बच्चे हैं उन पर एक एक्सपेरिमेंट किया कि उन्होंने एक कार्टून बनाया जिसमें हंसते हुए बच्चों के कार्टून बनाए। तो 3 या 4 महीने का जब बच्चा उस कार्टून को देखता था वो बहुत खुशी महसूस करता था, बहुत प्रसन्न महसूस करता था। और उसी बच्चे को अगर आप दूसरे प्रकार के कार्टून दिखाया जाए जहाँ पर बच्चे आपस में लड़ रहे हों, डरावने हैं, तो उसमें वो भय पैदा करते थे, एक या उससे उसका लगाव नहीं होता है। तो इससे ये सिद्ध होता है कि हमारा जो मन है या हमारी जो प्रकृति है हमेशा प्रेम और करुणा रूपी है, हम सभी प्रेम को चाहते हैं, अच्छाई को चाहते हैं। तो इसलिए इन बातों को ध्यान रखना चाहिए। और वैज्ञानिक लोग कहते हैं कि जो हमारे लगातार क्रोध रहने से, गुस्सा रहने से हमारे शरीर का जो इम्यून सिस्टम है वो नष्ट हो जाता है, हमारी शारीरिक जो क्षमता है वो नष्ट होती है। इसलिए अगर हमारा सुखी मन होगा तो हमारा शरीर भी अच्छी तरह से होगा। तो कभी भी ज़्यादा क्रोध या घृणा नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि इस दुनिया में लगभग 7 अरब के आसपास आबादी है। उन सब की चाहत यही है कि उनको सुख मिले, समृद्धि मिले। तो हमें प्रयास करना चाहिए कि किस प्रकार से हो। तो 20वीं शताब्दी में अगर देखें तो बहुत बुरी घटनाएं हुई, बहुत सारे अत्याचार हुए, काफ़ी हत्याएँ हुई हैं। जो समय बीत गया वह बीत गया, उसके बारे में नहीं सोचना चाहिए और अभी के बारे में सोचना चाहिए कि अभी हम क्या कर सकते हैं, इसे 21वीं शताब्दी को अच्छा कैसे बनाया जा सके। और आपकी जो शिक्षा है आजकल के जो एजुकेशन सिस्टम उसमें भी बदलाव लाने की आवश्यकता है। प्राचीन से चली आ रही शिक्षा कोई अगर देखे तो ज़्यादा परिवर्तन नहीं होगा। जहाँ के भारत की जो शिक्षा पद्धति में जो सेकुलर एथिक्स या फिर सर्वधर्म समभाव की जहाँ बात की जाती है तो उसको भी अपने पाठ्यक्रम में डालना चाहिए। तो पिछले कई सालों से अमेरिका के लोग और इंडिया के कुछ विद्यालय के लोग मिलकर के कि जो मूलभूत चीज़ें हैं, जो इनर वैल्यू की बातें हैं या आंतरिक वैल्यू की जो चीज़ें हैं उनको हम किस तरह से लागू कर सकें, किस प्रकार से अपने उसमें अभ्यास में ला सकें, इसकी आवश्यकता ज़्यादा होती है। तो भारतीय जो प्राचीन परंपरा सेकुलर फेथ उसको हमें सभी लोगों के साथ जोड़ करके कोशिश करना चाहिए, शिक्षा पद्धति में भी लाना चाहिए, चाहे धार्मिक हो या अधार्मिक, इन सभी की जो मूल आवश्यकता है वो सारे सुखों की आवश्यकता सभी को उनके साथ लेने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए, साथ साथ सीखने की कोशिश करना चाहिए। अगर मैं अपने बारे में सोचूं कि मैं एकमात्र दलाई लामा हूँ और अपने आप को घमंड करूँ तो मैं बाकी के 7 अरब के लोग हैं उनसे मैं अलग हो जाऊँगा, उथल पुथल जैसा हो जाऊँगा। इसलिए मैं भी इस 7 अरब के आसपास के लोगों का हिस्सा मानता हूँ, जिससे सबके साथ मिल करके भाई बहन के रूप में मैं भी उनसे प्यार कर सकूँ, वो भी हमें चाह सकें। इसी प्रकार से हम सभी का कर्तव्य है एक दूसरे के साथ मिल करके चलने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए। इस दुनिया में चाहे ईसाई धर्म हो, चाहे सिख या मुस्लिम, कोई धर्म हो, सब में बहुत सारी चीज़ें समानताएं देखने को मिलती हैं, तो उन समानताओं को हमेशा कोशिश करना चाहिए। तो 20वीं शताब्दी में अगर बात करें तो 20वीं शताब्दी में बहुत सारे अत्याचार हुए, हजारों लाखों लोगों की हत्याएँ हुई, तो उसको छोड़ने की कोशिश करना चाहिए और इस नए 21वीं शताब्दी में प्रयास करना चाहिए कि किस प्रकार से इस दुनिया को, इस संसार को हम सुखमय संसार बनाएं, किस प्रकार से अच्छा बनाएं। कि कई जगह पर आप देख रहे हैं कि मानव होने के नाते भी एक दूसरे की हत्या करते हैं, कई जगह पर इस तरह के लोग हैं जो भूखे प्यासे मर रहे हैं, बच्चे छोटे छोटे बेचारे प्यासों से मर रहे हैं, ऐसे लोगों की हमें मदद करनी चाहिए, कोशिश करनी चाहिए। भारत में बेंगलोर के एक साधु से मेरी मुलाकात हुई तो उनका इस प्रकार का काम है कि लोगों को हमेशा भोजन देना, खाने की चीज़ें देना, इस प्रकार से काम कर रहे हैं जिसको हजारों लोगों को फायदा हो रहा है। तो हम बहुत लोगों को या अन्य लोग जो भी धार्मिक अपने आप को मान रहे हैं, इस प्रकार की कोशिश करनी चाहिए। तो बीते हुए समय को छोड़ करके 21वीं शताब्दी को हम किस प्रकार से अच्छा बना सकें, तो हम लोग परम बाबा जी मजाक के तौर पर भी कह रहे हैं कि 20वीं शताब्दी का समय हम लोगों का था, उसमें बहुत सारी समस्याएं थी, तो उन समस्याओं को, उन दुखों को जो भी हम लोगों के द्वारा की गई हैं वो आप लोगों की जिम्मेदारी बनती है, उसको कैसे नष्ट किया जा सके, इस संसार को सुखमय कैसे बनाया जा सके। तो बीता हुआ समय तो बीत गया, तो 21वीं शताब्दी खासकर आप युवा लोगों के लिए 20, 21, 22, 23, 25 या 30 वर्ष के लोग हैं वो इसको किस प्रकार से सुखीमय बना सकें। और हम लोगों का जो 20वीं शताब्दी के लोग हैं उनका समय तो अब जाने का समय है, अब आप लोगों को इसको संभालने की आवश्यकता होती है। मान लीजिए कि मेरे देहावसान के बाद मेरा जन्म स्वर्ग या नरक कहीं भी हुआ हो, अगर मेरा जन्म नरक में होता है तो मैं वहाँ जाऊँगा, वहाँ पर कभी कभी छुट्टी लेकर के उनसे स्पेशल परमिशन लेकर के इस मनुष्य लोग में आऊँगा कि देखने के लिए जो 21वीं शताब्दी के युवा युवती थे वो अच्छा कर रहे हैं कि नहीं। अगर अच्छा कर्म कर रहे हैं तो उनसे कहूँगा कि अब जो नरक है उसको आप ज़्यादा फैलाने की आवश्यकता नहीं है, इसको छोटा कर दिया जाए। अगर उसके बाद भी अगर आप लोग और ज़्यादा गलत कर्म करते हैं तो मैं कहूँगा कि इस नरक को और ज़्यादा बढ़ा दिया जाए। तो इसलिए आप लोगों से अनुरोध है कि इस 21वीं शताब्दी को अच्छी तरह से संरक्षित करने की ज़रूरत है और इसका जो भी हो आपको मैं अनुरोध करता हूँ कि आप लोग इसको संभालें।
다 청주 있으면서야지 아니 안으로는 딜링이 되죠. 아다 시르님은 나한테 가대 바라상고대 부디 소사 되기 아니 다 소람 졸람 통로 검남스 다 통화 아다 동이 냠내 공내 공도 패야게 소주변 내가 그 소람 되네 동이 라 동이 무슨도 통야게 지年龄 주로 다 동이는 그 공중 게임도 전에 졸람 셋셔리 되네 동이 무슨 또인도 전에 얘네 통남 되네 얘네 통신 컨버전이 또지 통방 공방 다 간다 저 있는 공방 림이 비교다 보야 디디 얘네 공람 셋셔 대대를 다 탑시게 람런니 아니 타르 아니 청주도 시속 산지고 방어도 자디셔 당한 늘로 되게 아들래 당보변 네가 되네 다 지금이라 주소디디 되네야 아니 다저 동리가 상다들샤 아니 다디 청주 성지 스버 청주 성다다 님도리야 상다네
जैसे कि यहाँ पर बोधिचित्त की अगर बात करें तो
So with regard to the practice of bodhicitta, as it is said in the Heart Sutra, as it is said in Heart Sutra, the mantra of Heart Sutra, Gati, Gati, Paragati, Parasamgati, Bodhiswaha. So there are 5 phases or phrases in it. But the first Gati refers to the path of accumulation. The path of accumulation refers to a stage where you are in the developmental stage of seeing or realizing emptiness and accumulating merit for that. And then the second Gati refers to the path of preparation, which means you are at this stage, you are actually at a stage where you, it's a preparatory stage for the path of seeing. And then the Paragati refers to the path of seeing, which is the direct path where you see emptiness directly. And then the Parasangati refers to the path of meditation. And the path of meditation is a stage where you actually familiarize your mind with this direct insight into emptiness that you have gained at the path of seeing. And then also you engage in practices whereby you actually develop the insight in order to overcome those defilements that have to be overcome by the path of meditation. And then having gone through the stages within this path of seeing, what you reach is the resultant stage of Bodhi, referred by Bodhiswaha. And so Bodhi refers to enlightenment. Swaha means laying the foundation for this. And so with this comes in conjunction with the practice of development of bodhicitta combined with realization of emptiness. So we'll have a 15-minute break here.
Now perhaps some questions, maybe.
तो अभी किसी
Yes.
There are some questions here, Your Holiness. So this again is connected with secular values. So for Indian people in India, where we give a lot of importance to religion and to rituals and practices like that, based on blind faith, what is His Holiness's advice so that we can bring this ethical behavior and secular ethics more into the Indian mind? What could His Holiness has already given some advice on this, but how can we really in India, Your Holiness, establish secular ethics and these values in our everyday life? What would His Holiness's advice be to establish these ethics in our daily life in India?
Sorry.
Actually, India's own constitution based on secular, as I think yesterday is mentioned. So now I have to sort of review. A few years ago, International Hindu Conference took place in Delhi. So that meeting, so that meeting I so requested in ancient time, among the non-Buddhist, among different Hindu sort of practitioner, Hindu masters, or really like Parman, logic, and certain sort of different philosophical views. There were many top scholars. So now that, how should they, that standard. I think that kind of standard seems, I think, much declined. So although you see everywhere, the lot of small temples, but I feel, you see, a temple, very good, but along the temple, some sort of small library. Some books must be there. So those devoted people, you see, can learn. And the faith, I think the previous Pope, German Pope, he mentioned faith, reasons must go together. So therefore, in ancient time, Buddhists as well as non-Buddhists, you see, the study in order to use reasons. So I think a lot of top scholars, I think the 2nd century, 3rd, 4th century, these centuries, I think a lot of scholars, so intellectual. So therefore, you see, that should revive, not just ritual or some, some rituals. That's not sufficient. A study is very, very essential. So otherwise, some kind of faith is there, but then some more urgent things happen. Then the religious faith, not important. Sometimes I jokingly telling, India, basically religious-minded nation. Many of the big families, I think each day, you see, they pray and worship to Shivaji or Brahma or Vishnu and so on Lakshmi or Saraswati. But it seems, you see, they pray to God in order to success their corrupted life. So if you see, really, you see, fund corruption, then should not practice spirituality. If you accept value of spirituality, then your life must be honest, pure. You see, a little bit sort of corrupted life and spirituality cannot go together. So therefore, you see, sometimes, you see, this country, generally, you see, spiritual-minded nation. But the spiritual sort of experience not reach depth, remain more or less superficial. So now, in order to change that, study is very important. And the spiritual masters also have the responsibility to now come out, meet people, talk, not just some ceremony or ritual, but explain mainly philosophical views. When you explain about spirituality, just mention some stories, that's not sufficient. I feel, I love philosophy. Even Buddha's own story, sometimes I feel little skeptical. When this Buddha sort of teaching philosophy, then I feel, oh, this is something, this is something. Otherwise, you see the Jataka Mare, Jataka story, oh, wonderful, but difficult to believe 100%. Like that. So, a story of a Bharata, Mahabharata. Oh. You see, many hotels in Delhi, I noticed some books of Kazati, or Gita, or Mahabharata. No, they are very good, but I prefer some serious sort of books on serious discussion about, you see, philosophical views. Now, overall world, through education, including knowledge about science, now the spirituality also must be equally because of match. So as Pope mentioned, you see, faith, reason must go together. That's my view. So then, basically, I think this country, the concept of secular, because of that, you see, all world major religious traditions live together, as I mentioned yesterday. Because of secular concept, respect all religion. So still very much alive. Then the over 3,000-year-old concept of ahimsa. I think comparatively, this country, in spite of some sort of problems and difficulties, but comparatively, much more peaceful, wonderful. So these very much related with the 1,000-year-old concept of ahimsa. The ahimsa, usually you see people consider ahimsa means restrain harming. But we have to think the real motivation about ahimsa is karuna. Where karuna there, ahimsa automatically come. Where full of anger, suspicion, karuna just mere hypocritic way. Clear? So, ahimsa is rather, I think, action. Karuna, motivation. So, real demarcation of violence and non-violence, not just a mere action, but motivation. Motivation, more compassionate motivation, and even a little bit harsh word. Okay, no problem. Or a little bit sort of negative face. Or still, non-violence. So different motivation, want to cheat them, want to exploit them, and use nice word. And give some sort of gift. Looks non-violence, but actually motivation is try to cheat, try to exploit. So violence, like that. So I think generally this country really wonderful. Over 1 billion population and complicated sort of country, but still overall I think wonderful, wonderful. So still we need more effort through education. That's how I feel. Next question.
Holiness, you have mentioned about your study and practice and its effect on your holiness during your lifetime. Could you speak a little bit about how your inner spiritual understanding and experience has changed during your lifetime as a result of study and so forth?
So firstly, I think, of course, when I was young, age 10, teenage, yeah, teenage, I'm a very lazy student. No interest to learn, also no interest to practice. Only practice is play, like that. Then around 15, 16 year old, I began to develop these philosophical sort of points, and particularly the Sanskrit word Patitta Samupanta. The meaning of shunyata, according to Madhyamaka philosophy, the real meaning of shunyata is not a nothingness, but patitta samupanta. Interrelated, interconnected. So I developed some interest. Then now, over 60 years, I practice thinking. I always, as soon as I wake up, remember Buddha and then his teaching. Mainly Patitta Samupanta, Shunyata. Then about 50 years ago, I developed some experience about the Kasagdame, Kasa. Selflessness of person. I developed some experience. Then I think the last 15 years, the deeper understanding about selflessness of phenomena. Very, very powerful. Very powerful. So the result, the destructive emotion, particularly attachment, these now almost gone. So therefore, you see, more deeper. So I develop some kind of conviction or nirodha, cessation of these negative emotion is possible. And that once you yourself, you see, gain some experience, then, you see, that brings conviction. Or other people also, you see, have the same potential, you see, to eliminate or to reduce this destructive emotion. So that strengthening karuna, sense of concern, not only for temporary thing, but you see, elimination of these wrong views or destructive emotions. So understanding of shunyata really immense help to increase or to strengthening about bodhicitta. So that's my practice. So, and of course, still not adequate. But I wish, if time permits, or if there is opportunity, I really want to more kasota, more time to contemplate these things and practice, the training of shamatha, samadhi, single-pointed mind. That I'm lacking. Wisdom side, I feel quite okay. but the single-pointed experience of single-pointed, that is lacking. But I choose, you see, two things. One, serving other people, talking with other people, meeting with other people, or isolated place and practice or training about shamatha. I choose the other way. Meet people, talk with people. The first Dalai Lama also, you see, done that. See, he spent some years in remote area meditation. Then he chose that, although long run, beneficial to other sentient being. But for the time being, his own spiritual development. So he gave up that and come to Shigatse and start construction of tertiary monastery and give teaching. So I impressed, you see, his sort of story, his example. And another factor, if I spend few years in isolated place, if proper spiritual development come, okay. If not, then great fail. So you see, meeting with people, talk. Obviously, I feel some benefit. Okay. So that's practical. So the isolated place meditation, not very sure whether successful or not. Next question.
Holiness, this is quite a strong question. While we talk about cutting down on starvation and poverty, killing, somehow we are failing to act on it sufficiently. For example, the religious practices like that of offering to statues or to the priest or the Lama. In this, the question of things, we waste a lot of food and money. So how to channelize? Does His Holiness think we need to channelize this faith that people have in religious practices into a more ground level, helping people, where people will be able to put more faith in humanity rather than just religion?
You see, judging Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, these masters of history, I think almost no mention constructing Buddha statue. Or big temple. They concentrate teaching, writing. And Nagarjuna, according to some sort of also the story says, he also practiced of medicine. So some people say different people with same sort of name, Nagarjuna. I don't know. But in any way, all those great, also the follower of Buddha, their main sort of effort is teaching and writing. So now, as I mentioned earlier, is it pray or constructing Buddha statue or other Lama statue? Wonderful. Of course, as a Buddhist, I sort of just appreciate. And Dharamsala, the huge statue of Sambhava, was a consecration, they invited me. I went there, wonderful. And then, meantime, one public talk, I mentioned, with respect, the great statue, this may remain maybe few centuries or 1,000 years, but next 1,000 years, this statue will never talk. So we need instruction. We need teaching, not just sort of some kind of kasota, reminder. I feel, as far as Tibetan Buddhist tradition, which pure tradition, lineage of Nalanda, as far as that tradition is concerned, we kept almost 1,000 years through study, root text learned by heart. Then each word explained according commentary wrote by Nalanda masters. And then each word, according to your own understanding, then debate at courtyard, debate courtyard. That way, 20, 30 years, serious study. In the meantime, practice. So, we kept Nalanda tradition through learning, not just a statue. So now, I always see urging people should study more, should study more. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a philosophical views, study philosophical views, philosophical books is much more important than just a story. I noticed on a few occasions, some Buddhist monks say, they simply explain some Buddha's Jataka story. Yes, I, as a follower of Buddha Shakyamuni, a simple Buddhist monk, so I have to sort of respect. But in one side of my mind, I feel boring. So study is very, very important. Then you get conviction through reasons, use our common sense fully. Then you get real conviction. Conviction brings will, determination. Determination brings action. Action brings result. Clear? Just a mere faith. Next question.
Your Holiness, how can we control our emotions and desires?
Now Nagarjuna clearly stated, and also that more or less confirmed by some scientists. One American scientist, now very old, now his age, now I think 98 or something. About, I think 1980s or 90s, I think. I met him first time in Kasachimoti, Stockholm, Sweden. He participated in one conference. We met, and he told me, actually, he wrote one book. That book he brought to me. He said, that book, the title is something like, We Are a Prisoner of Hate. Prisoner of Hate. So then, while we discussed, he mentioned people who develop anger. And then when he experienced that, the object which he feels angry is very, very negative, appears very negative. But actually, that negativeness, 90% negativeness is mental projection. So much exaggerated, not fact. So a fact way, like that. So exactly Nagarjuna, 2,000 years ago, you see, one Indian, one South Indian, you see, he mentioned in his Matimika Mulakarika, and Sanskrit is still available. In Tibet, we have the tradition. Some teachers sort of practice is before explaining that text, the student must learn by heart, then teacher explaining. My case, without because of the learn by heart, I received the explanation. So more easier way. So in it, rang I cannot so translate. I cannot mention in English. Le tang nyomo sebe tar. Le tang nyomo namdo le. Teda trele trebani tongba ni ki ngakbar juls.
레다 녀모다 레다 녀모 왕게 쮸베게 남도 대다 탐제네 동번이기네 야고 용서나 디기 도투레스 수고레스
Now you see suffering, which we ourselves also experience. Outside the world also, you see, as already mentioned, these are part of the suffering of samsara. Oneself, suffering of birth, suffering of or aging, suffering of illness, suffering of death. And this very sort of body produced by ultimately produced by ignorance. So therefore, this body biologically, like anger or all these things, this is something quite close. Because of this body, the ultimate source is ignorance. So therefore, this body created by samsaric karma. That samsaric karma created by emotion. These emotion, you see, created by that mental projection, exaggeration. That exaggeration comes wrong view about the thing. So now here, all 300 books, directly or indirectly, dealing with that. Because the very purpose of teaching is overcome suffering. Temporary, long run, like that. So therefore, the Buddhist view, source of suffering is ignorance. Kasa, l'exercice kasa, anit, avidya, or kasota, the ignorance, avidya. So ignorance, just mere ignorance and distorted ignorance, two kinds. So real troublemaker is distorted, or distorted sort of ignorance. Now that all these great masters, you see, discuss these things, but then they more correct, more sort of precise. Is it according to Madhyamika philosophy and according to Nagarjuna and Chandakirti and Shantideva? See, all these phenomena appears or appearances, appears independent existence, objectively exist. Similarly, our experience, joyfulness, sadness, all these also appears something independent. So that appearances is wrong. But as that, because the scientist Aaron Beck, as he mentioned, when anger about develop, the object appears very negative. That negativeness is something independent, absolute from objectively. So at that moment, if you have some experience, now nothing objectively exists. All your own mental designation, that directly antidote of the wrong view, things independently, absolutely exist from there, from object. Once you understand nothing objectively exists, then that wrong view become weaker, weaker, weaker. So therefore, it is really, or the let on your seven tars, let on your namdole, that dreles, this one. Now that wrong view can, because of the wrong view appears till we reach Buddhahood. That appearance remain there. But grasping, grasp appears something objectively exists independently. And our own view, oh, that is true. Now that's ignorance, distorted ignorance. So that creates basis of all this exaggeration. That because of that becomes because of basis of anger, attachment, all these destructive emotion. The constructive emotion, such as karuna. Karuna also is a biased karuna, unbiased karuna. Biased karuna, more or less sort of biological factor. We, social animal, come from our mother, and a few years, you see, our survival entirely depends on mother or parents' care. So therefore, biologically, some kind of loving kindness or feeling. That biased, that kind of sort of loving kindness cannot extend to your enemy, only your friends. So it is biased. Actually, very much based, very much mixed with attachment. Now, the karuna, which we are now talking, so the karuna, something biased, biological factor, that take as a seed, then use reason or the further strengthening that compassion, karuna, become unbiased, quite clear. Usually our karuna oriented about others' attitude. So your friend's attitude, so long, nice attitude, you have sense of concern of them. Once their attitude change, because of the develop negative attitude, no longer karuna. So it is very clear. Our usual karuna, biological factor, is very much oriented about others' attitude. Now, unbiased karuna, not oriented about others' attitude, but the sentient being themselves. So, in that case, so that kind of sense of concern can extend your enemy. as far as their attitude is concerned, negative towards you. But still they are, for example, still they are human being. They are sentient being. Now, they themselves, you see, remain as a slave of destructive emotion. So you have plenty of reason to feel compassion, to feel sense of concern, instead of anger or hatred. So that kind of compassion is unbiased compassion. That kind of unbiased compassion can develop only through training, not biological. Only we human beings can do that. 아니 어디 가래? 달라 가래 한다. 이 저도 가래. So, understanding and some experience about shunyata is the antidote of all destructive emotion. Then particular sort of emotion, such as attachment, 미두고 거면. 대자가 뭐 미두고 거면, 세상가 뭐 잡아 거면, 니디 크도 그냥 못 해야지. 뽀이냐 붙이는 참을로 배 겹쳐야게 뭐지 동력이 나와르죠.
가서래 베나 율 땅징로 계기도나 아니 미다보 코메디 아니 땅징상기 투모 많이 배 임브레스 아니 차바 계기도나 아니 유디 도다 미두바 삼나타디 아니 차베 임보 데르도 수수바니 동문이 아니 저 탐제라 미베게 아니 저 탐제 잘이나 임보드레스
동문이 기스 제대자 제대자네 람데디샤
아니
다 고베 모디 지무치 인수 세베 심지 취인디 고베 모르와 자자가다디 가사 저번에 동번이 투 가고요 디 쿨라마르 무치기 데시디 큐기 레자르 시그널로라 동번이 기 가고요 제제 시그다 동번이 투 가고요
His Holiness is right now continuing explaining about the meaning of that verse which he mentioned earlier. The third line, at the end of the third line, there is a word "by elaboration." So there is a distinction here in that which Guru Lama used to make, the elaboration, dissolution of the elaboration into, or sort of something like saying out of. So Guru Lama used to emphasize that it should be mentioned. It should be stated that elaboration dissolves into emptiness, because this has a specific meaning that if you say into, then it directly means shows the meaning of the truth of cessation, because truth of cessation is actually the emptiness of the cessation itself. So there's a distinction, an important distinction here in when explaining the nature of the truth of cessation.
शब्द है जैसा कि अभी श्लोक इसको आप लोगों को लिखना चाहिए या इसके बाद नोट करना चाहिए कि इसका कितना प्रभाव है। जो जितने भी कर्म हैं या फिर अज्ञानताएं हैं, हमारी जितनी भी वासनाएं या फिर जो भी सोच विचार मिथ्या दृष्टि उसकी वजह से उत्पन्न होते हैं।
대자 줄래 말이 내가 너무 남도래 이거 가서 Ale, let the Yomo Sebe Tar, Nay knows. I made a mistake.
तो जो भी कि कर्म और हमारी ज्ञानता इससे व्यक्त होने के लिए
The second verse, let the nyumo namdo. Kasa, let the nyumo sebeta, let the nyumo namdo le.
उसके बाद एक दूसरा हिस्सा है कि इसके जितने
So the first line means, says action and delusion, afflict emotions at the end of the secession. The second line says let action and afflict emotion and elaborations. And the third line, which says their elaboration
다 동반이 있어야
dissolves
된다
into
그래서 양자오시
emptiness.
죽인다. 자오시 치. 아니 댄신 대로 중앙 강.就是되는 동반이
What
있어.
is emptiness then?
शून्यता का अगर बात किया जाए
Emptiness is pratit samutpad, what is dependent and what is produced
एक दूसरे को
cooperatively.
वो उसको प्रति समर्पण कहा जाएगा
되는 다고 돼 있어.
इस पर जो भी चीजें इस पर
Whatever is that, what is
होकर के पैदा
that object is that is pratit samutpad, when it's produced and produced cooperatively, and that is
가서
so therefore, whatever is so there is no object which is not pratit samutpad, which is not dependent, and therefore there is nothing which is not pratit samutpad. And so these two verses, every day when I do my prayers, I always think on these two, remember these two verses. And
So usually
think on
I
their meaning.
describing the Nalanda sort of tradition, according to Nalanda tradition, the way of practice is utilize human intelligence maximum way, through that way transform our emotion. Yeah, next question.
Sorry, Your Holiness, I thought we'd finished the question section. So there was a question, Your Holiness, about a person who was advised by their Lama to make a statue of Guru Rinpoche and Lord Buddha, and then the person who had died will therefore be reborn in a good family. So is this true, Your Holiness, that one can make a statue and it will help the person's rebirth? This is the question.
Kushana. Oh. I'm not very sure. Yes, I think not only that, Sambara, Sambara, also some other sort of conditions. Then that Sambara also makes some effect. But 100% I don't know.
The best thing to do in one's life, to engage in meditation practice or to contribute all our energy to work for the betterment of the whole world?
세상에. I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think helping other people, serving other people, with sincere motivation, not for your good name or more popularity, next time more vote, not that way. Sincerely helping, serving, I think that is, best way to create merit. Last few years, say, some occasion I express, one occasion in Delhi, from airport to my hotel, say, one place, 가서 다 쇠셔졌다. Shed or some shed. You see, quite big. I thought some spiritual teaching or something. And I asked my driver, what is going on here? He answered, marriage. Then I thought, oh, and how much cost? He says, about 5 lakhs. Then few occasions I mentioned is that instead of to spend a lot of money for just some sort of tent or something, kind of decorated tent, instead of that, you see, buy bread, cheese, fruit, like that, few trucks, and then go round in Delhi, those street children, you see, give them some sort of this fruit or these things, and which is certain sort of letter, or we are going to happy marriage. So with that occasion, now we are giving you see, these these things. Then I think more and more street children or poor people may wish more marriage. So certainly, you see, they feel, oh, one marriage take place, they get some sort of food, something. So at least, you see, poor people, helpless people, you see, give some satisfaction. Just to waste, just because of the decoration or this tent, is firstly, waste of money. Secondly, including myself, passing through that, they feel, oh, useless. Really. That those street children, I think, may feel uncomfortable. Some people, some family, luxurious life, and now wasting these kind of sort of kasota or decoration like that. So, a few occasions I mentioned that, but so far no response. So my words just empty, go like that. So if appropriate situation happen, then that kind of sort of marriage ceremony, giving food to poor people, I will join. Then start that kind of a practice. One occasion in Delhi, I crossed one street. One young female with stick. Difficult, very difficult. Cross, you see, that road. There are many people, no one helping her. And these street children. Very sad, very sad. They also same human being, our sister, our brother. We are a little bit better position. So we have to help them as much as we can. So we call dana, rawachimba, dana. Dana is some purpose for name or some other thing is not genuine dana. Right? Learn the miruwa.
Danas, jimbate daya di kechumbo shirares.
Now I think teaching.
Das sunju bozu zunangi yes.
So now, about Bodhisattva, I think Bodhicitta, you see, two words combined, then there is Buddhist practice. Because it's a Buddhi there. Bodhicitta is mind. So, for example, Bodhisattva, Buddhi, something unique about Buddhist. Sattva, Sato, Samba. I feel it should be common to 7 billion human beings. They are the Shirabji Changju make, Ningji Simjali make Chavre, Changju Samba Sati, Shirabji Changju make. Then don't you down the day you do, Nambe to that chair. So, Ningji Simjali makes it that day, Tawata the day on, and Nambe Kada Kasoleta, Church Changu, Changju Samba Sati. Changju the mother chair, Sambaston, Ningji Simjan mix Saki, Ningji Kunanandi, Shana, Shana Pentituya, Shana Russia, sing it, Mazu Samala, Chiptash.
So with regard to the text, it's about bodhicitta or the bodhisattva. So bodhi refers to enlightenment. Sattva is someone who is heroic and pursuing for the welfare of others. And here, with regard to the bodhicitta, or what we can understand is that according to a certain text, there is this explanation that with the bodhisattvas, with their wisdom, they focus on enlightenment, and here the wisdom is wisdom of emptiness, realizing emptiness, whereas with their compassion, what they do is compassion, which is in turn coupled with this view of emptiness. They focus on sentient beings, the welfare of sentient beings. But then with regard to this compassion, if we leave out the part which has to do with emptiness, we can also talk about extending this compassion to all other beings, regardless of whether they are Buddhist or not or whatever. And so in this way, the bodhisattvas focus on enlightenment and with wisdom, and to sentient beings with compassion.
이게 리우 당부 성기기 패연스 오래 땅에 뒤슬라고 하는 성기 저주서도 샘기하 성이디 랴에네 도대견에 대자와처 닝진도 송어래 닝지 전부 다 닝지사디 동해의 차나 삼배 다 닝지 다 동해의 차와 다게 차 삼배 학성 진흙이 닝지 그러야 동해의 차나 삼배 전적인 닝지 동해의 차와 다게 차냐배 아니 좀적인 닝지 들으시도 와 자, 다음도 그런데 항상 진흙이 닝지 쳐볼래야 다 쓰기야라 안 돼. 대사와 닝지 넣어서야 돼. 드리브 이두산에 대대비 닝지 영화래야 강동해진 나의 샘전을 제시 방법으로 주야 찍다. 이용의 나바저도 샤네 제시 방법 유샘전 디디 동해진 나와를 미스벨로지 오유베인도 달래야 로 장야 돼. 이용의 나바저도 주야 찍. 전에 동해 못해야지 니고도가 다 이용의 나바전도 샤야 될라 마시 진전 진수세니 요네 명아 뒤메고는 로자야지 애니 준준에다 세도되는 소야디 다신냠지들이 랑진지기 현진지기 연단 삼백관에 애니 심제탐지 이용의 나바전도 쳐도자 어다 디지 먼저 니도가 디니도 직도 된 거야. 간다 전다 코치 걸으시래.但你 당신이是的是什么我呢呀的당신이 이제 숙제하듯이.
So the Bodhisattva
So with regards to the the bodhicitta, according to Sutra Alamkara, Mahayana Sutra Alamkara, it says that the root of the bodhicitta is compassion. And so within the compassion, we can have this wish for others to be free of suffering. And then on the other hand, you could also have this the aspiration to actually help the sentient beings to be free from suffering. And so the second one is actually the one which is not just wishing others to be out of suffering, but actually that you will take the responsibility to help them out of suffering. And therefore it serves as the basis for, or the impetus for that of the extraordinary resolve to work for other sentient beings. And that in turn gives rise to bodhicitta within oneself. And so in order to experience bodhicitta, one must have, first of all, one must experience compassion to others. And in order to have this compassion, particularly this aspiration to actually work for others by yourself to lead them out of suffering. And in order to have that kind of compassion also, you should have this feeling, you should feel these other sentient beings dear to you, so that this compassion, this loving kindness gives rise to compassion, and that in turn helps in developing the extraordinary resolve and bodhicitta. And so with regard to cultivating bodhicitta, there are two different systems or traditions. One is recognizing other sentient beings as having been your mother, and then reflecting on their kindness that they have done to you, and then also to repay their kindness. And then after that, you go through the process of developing loving kindness, and then compassion and special resolve and bodhicitta. And on the other hand, this is one way of cultivating bodhicitta within oneself, and the other way is by equalizing and exchanging self and others, whereby you develop these two. But in actual practice, you can combine these two systems together. And with regards to thinking about suffering of others and suffering in general, first of all, you develop this understanding that the whole of samsara, the cycle of existence, in the nature of suffering. And suffering can be, generally, you can understand suffering in general, and particularly here you should think about the pervasive, conditioned existential suffering. And then with that understanding of how the whole of samsara is within this kind of suffering, you could develop, when you think about your own existence, you develop renunciation. And when you think about the others being in this kind of suffering, you develop compassion.
Doga leji chingwa tambe tam sadadi leji kunjunche dengzi zhage chawe pusu cui sadadi kansa ge dengzi de jigde de ba da mari mimbe mangshin guine tip sadadi chui dengzi de da kanda be nang nyoi neri chi be de sugru zhiro so be chana ine de tamjalo ngoni 주버 전는 거 요래 나왔다도 ngoni 주버 때니 대달도 답게 셴베 로되기 아니 준비 이식 남도 되니 녀모지야도 저거 요와 저 드린 이두산에 아니 단 가사가 다도 따에 직도 수잔에 단 강라미네 나오냐고 차기 따뜻하게 가서다 땅아 서울에다 가다 나오냐고 로되기 미보 나라미네 나오냐고 저거 요와 저상 나오냐며 로되기 미고 마스 마스도와 다 디샤야디 아니 다도 제고요래 Pene chanzo nga tani ike talalama dos gore. Eni ti talalama lu tungu yore. Eni talalama yi ta ji sam khare jo ta chenpu shingi yore. Eni nga tugu yore. Ta dindegi luga yisu ku tabu talalama kawados lama mendoga. Tane chanzo la nge ma tayi du dagarare. Nge lu tungu yore. Eni chanzo namjugu tane pese chanzo samlo chenpu shigire. Eni ta ngodo kansaade kawados lama niya kirimda. 무시 그것을 너무 삼아서는데 너무 살아 너무 럽다 다 도스래 자 지대 인도산에 나오냐 봐 제야기 제세 나 사시도가 따디 말한서 로려야 지 류의 심라 완 줄겐지 퍼스지 여버지 다 아트마사데 도스래 거야래 스다오다 된데기 만지기로 디에니 뭐땅네녜녜 롱저스잖니 Any ngayi zimbati, ngela kazota ngar zimbata. Tene ngayi wa zamda. Tene any ngayi chiju chedi de la migbe shancha di de lengudowa. Tela mitumbe gajin chenge di shidan kia shlikdowa. Tamo ngashi tala shanju, dagi dishingala chagewa. Cha sunyati, diri. Sada dindri yindu kaza disham janda. Oh, dindri yindu ta kansa ki tangzin 매바 소야디 가사가 담에 떠고 요래 가사가 담에 차라 먹고 예배나네 그럼들 가사 러시지 주베 또에 담에 처모도 떠고 요래 가사 러시지 주베 또에 담에 처모도 되지 가사가 담에 처모도 영어래야 풍부 때버지 댄진 시기하기 따와시면은 요하요 말에 대형 공부루루기 지시 풍부 진여 디지털 능지여 능지여나 양내때 내려자네 교이 송도와 저 드리인도 다 민중국 상으로다 민중국 사배타네다 자 풍지디 등지레샤 사모 다 등지 뽕야게 로치레인도 등지 방배 저와디 탈벌바 다 탈벌 좀디고 로디 민중 사바체 다디 라지고서 많이 봐 남게테도 베심제 코아바디디 드르지기다 내주 여바도 상고 거인데 아니 닝질로 끼야지 어다 두산 도스레샤 셴 알아도 남주 지다 동해지 동해 삼로야 이제 동해도 통대할 지기 대마도 규의 동해 사제가 소대와들 아주 이미 계체 안도 주저 지기 알아봐 아니 두지기 동해 다 파샤 규의 동해 동해도 통 가고도 와
तो इसके बाद जो हमारे संस्कार दुख है उसके बारे में भी ये रिपोर्ट ने भी उनके जो मार्ग तीन क्रम है वहाँ पर व्याख्या की है.
So, with regard to the suffering, this pervasive existential conditioned suffering, Master Tsongkhapa gives a very good instruction in the three principal aspects of the path, where he says, you are
वो सिर्फ अपने स्वभाव से
moved by the four strong currents of which refers to the suffering and in samsara, and you are and then there is the it is difficult to do away with, referring to the karma that gives rise to the suffering. And then he says, we are enmeshed in this. We are enmeshed in the cage of grasping at the self, which refers to grasping at a selfless self of a person, and then engulfed, he says, we are also engulfed in this ignorance, the darkness, the thick darkness of ignorance, which refers to the grasping at true existence of the phenomena. And so what we experience is the sense of I. When we think about ourselves, we think I, and when within that, what happens is there is this strong clinging to it's as if the I or the person exists independently. For example, when you look at me or I look at you, what happens is you see my body and you hear my voice, and accordingly, then you may come to say, oh, the Dalai Lama is thinking so and so. And similarly, I have the same kind of experience when I see your body or hear your voice, and then I can also, in a way, kind of see or infer what you are thinking. But what I'm actually seeing when I look at you is your body and hearing your speech, and not really the person as such cannot be pinpointed as being this or that. But we always have this sense of an I, whereby we think that I exist as someone who kind of rules the body and the mind, the psychophysical aggregates, and therefore there is this sense of an I independently existing. And because of this attitude, this grasping, or this way of thinking that of an independent I, we then think of this is my body, this is my such and so forth, my relatives and so forth. And so accordingly, what happens is, because of this clinging to an independent self and independent mindness, then we grow towards the beloved ones, we become attached. And when some things or somebody is trying to harm that person that you love, then what happens is, because of your attachment to that person, you become angry. And so in this way, the grasping at the self of a person gives rise to the grasping, attachment and anger and so forth. And therefore, to counter this, what we need to do is to counter this grasping at the self, independent self of a person. You need to develop the understanding and insight into selflessness of a person. And within that, of course, particularly the very subtle understanding of insight into the the subtle selflessness of person. And then when you think about the subtle selflessness, what happens here is that, as Master Nagarjuna has said, as long as there is a clinging to the psychophysical aggregates, to that extent there is the sense of I, holding on to independent existence of a self. And therefore, unless you are able to see the opposite of what this grasping at an independent existence of a phenomena does, you will not be able to do away with samsara, as you will not be able to free yourself from samsara as such. And therefore, in order to go out of samsara, you need to gain insight into this selflessness of phenomena, which in turn will lead you to have this in turn the phenomena. And then when you see that there's possibility of going out of samsara for yourself, you will have renunciation. And accordingly, when you see the same possibility in other sentient beings, and that they are shrouded by ignorance and so forth, and you have the compassion towards them.
가서 그게 머리고 풍부 중에 채발이야 아니 머리고 도고 요도 통제 도우세네 라시도가 자사가 두지두지 메다고 사자 담저 동해 왔어요. 다 대단하야 아니 머리고 써야지 인루를 치지로도 또댕의 집에 인루산에 델라 녀못 덤대 요래 녀못 덤대 써야지 모니기 머주고 써야 될 좀세 거야 요래 모니기 머주고 통해 로데 세매 잡된 요래 최는 랑면의 예벌 따여 로텔라 잡된 요마래 사진데 인두산에 잡된 예벌 로직다 잡된 삼아 매딩의 걸로니 도르이나 잡된 삼아 매딩의 걸로디 내서 요마래 잡된 예벌 로디 고마타메도 패줘야 돼 섬을 때문에 연대 인도 땡땡바 공신 배주 짤마다 믿어봐 된지를 통하네 애는 간다 심딩기 견디기 되게 녀부쳐지 고바타메도 패줘야 되지 대양 섬을 시 유에서 왔잖아요 주문은 루보를 센다 규라면 나래 요래 남진 나래 요래 또 디디 통하네 또 무슨 공루直연도 아니 심딩기 쯤을 세롱이 뭐지 통퇴하도가 된지 통인도 전에 사자 삼자 등어 최초적 동시 다음에 봐 인도 전에 냥을데 봐 쉬어야지 아니 용시부지다 되는 것도 최퇴하여지 따디 다가다가 자기 시수는 산재에 취급해야 가서 다 좀시서를 다 취급해 난가로 하다 디스송기야래 어다 되는 돈에 다 자주 씀 다가다 인중으로 뒤리체 아니 뒤에는 인지로 뒤리기야체 되는 인지 정말 학성체 되는 있는 두번인데 심지사지 토바래 다 심지들 때부 영향을 받아라 심지 초게 소리야 돼 다디 안다 준주lưu 아니 니버 수버디디 아니 심수는 초게 송 다데네마 류시바네마 된데기다 저바로 심지 저바로 로버라 캐라 담전에 여버인도 다 균도 네 로버 된지 캐리 제유 삼배 파유 때먹고 아레스 밤에 지치베이는 렌지브게 심게베 그도 데베 가서 우리 미주트지 미주트루르셰도 스테이어데 양고 밤에 샤워는 치베이는 양고 봐 걸리봐 예체 근데 인도 땅에 심기 숭유 이게 다리에 소원의 지제네 야사르스고 빵고로 자는 게 심게베인 심기 숭유 야사르스고 이게 빵보인 심지어 타다가 된 주구인생의 캘린셰유 사바지기 사바디 튠 남도야 보겠다 마지버셔야 돼 된지게 이제 바유 땡고 그래 다한테 바유리 그래
तो जैसा कि कहा गया कि बोधिचित्त को उत्पाद करने के लिए बोधिचित्त को उत्पाद करने के लिए
So, with regard to the suffering, as we talk about in the cultivation of bodhicitta, with regard to suffering, there are with regard to the Four Noble Truths, the suffering is said to be the first one, and within the suffering, it has, the suffering it has the four attributes, so which are that it is impermanent, and that there is nature, that it is the nature of suffering, and that there is emptiness, and then selflessness. Empty and selflessness. And so, regarding these, the Four Noble Truths, in which the suffering is taught, in relation to this, we can also have this maxim, which says that all composite phenomena are impermanent, that all contaminated things are in the nature of suffering. And so, what is meant by impermanent here is that things change momentarily. momentarily. And so the fact that things undergo this change momentarily is because of their own causes and conditions. And so the moment something comes into existence through their conditions and causes, it is bound to change. And with regard to this change in our psychophysical aggregates, we can understand that because the psychophysical aggregates are brought about by the negative by our karma and the afflictive emotions, therefore they are contaminated, and therefore the psychophysical aggregates are in the nature of suffering, and in the nature of suffering. So in this way, we should think about the suffering nature of this psychophysical aggregates that we have, and these contaminated things are in turn brought about by ultimately by ignorance. And so Master Dharmakirti says, by thinking about the impermanent nature of things, we can go into the insight into emptiness, lead ourselves to insight into emptiness and suffering. And with the insight into suffering, we can lead ourselves into the insight into selflessness. And so what we need to understand here is because the psychophysical aggregates, that 5 aggregates that we have, are the result of our karma and delusion, ultimately ignorance. And what we need to understand is that this ignorance, which is totally distorted about reality of things, there is always a counterfactor to it, which can end this ignorance. And therefore, when you see that the ignorance is something which has no valid support from valid knowledge, then that it is not going to stay forever, because the counterfactor, which is the antidote to it, is developed on the basis of valid knowledge that things do not have any intrinsic or any independent existence, which is actually what ignorance sees. And so because of that, you can say that the very nature of mind itself, on the one hand, the very nature of mind is such that when you familiarize your mind with something, when you can actually progress that infinitely, and the qualities that you develop can be progressed or developed infinitely, whereas ignorance and all these negative factors cannot do that. And then the very nature of mind is clarity and awareness or luminosity, and therefore it is a very the mind, the basic nature of mind itself is a very firm or stable basis for the development of all the qualities that you would develop. And so, in this way, by understanding that nature of the basic nature of the mind, and also on the basis of understanding that selflessness of things and themselves, and therefore there's a possibility of reaching the nirvana or liberation. And therefore, in the four maxims or the seals of the Dharma, it says all composite phenomena are called impermanent, and that contaminated things are in nature of suffering. And then the third is that all phenomena are empty and without self. And then the fourth seal says that nirvana is peace. And so in this way, we need to develop this understanding of selflessness and emptiness to reach that nirvana. And so when you think, this should in turn relate to our nature of suffering, and particularly the pervasive nature of existential suffering. And because of that, you'll be able to see that when you are able to do away with this ignorance, which is totally distorted regarding the reality of things, then you'll see the possibility of ending it. Therefore, nirvana is possible for yourself, and you can develop this urge or the determination to be free from suffering and samsara, and develop this renunciation or the determination to be free. And that in turn can give rise, when you think about the suffering nature of sentient beings, you can develop compassion within yourself, wishing and aspiring others to be free from suffering. And then the bodhicitta And so the third chapter of Bodhisattva Charyavatara shows the embracing bodhicitta, and you make pledge and actually develop the bodhicitta within yourself. And then the next chapter, which is the fourth chapter that we cover, is about conscientiousness. And if you once having made your pledge to keep bodhicitta, I mean, you should always be careful and not reckless with regard to its practice.
전주 심럽 땡송네 예원 배워 따도야 러블면도 배버차스 전다 심 기버디 심기 상부르디 따디 저부용야디 액션 톤에 용거를 봐. 그래서 인도산에 심 기버서 좀 미쳐봐. 아니 저버로 그레스 디디 인도 저버로 세야디 추수직 다와직 로직사로 and tell her message say think is marriage da to terrible goes to ne da naga masaga pa da jesusme jobara loyaji da tamje shaje 로고 예배 인도 뒤균내네 땅에 sem기버지 da 그 남도야 da sem기를 냠바베바 sem기베 거도로 지들벽에 소소식 tamje 샤버나시 땅에 타경화 지기 선배 지기 르 지르트 마야르체네 어다 nga 되게 tamje 샤버지 나 선배 로 되게 심베도네 에리 오지 장수 니抓야다.
So this is to wake you up from your sleep.
지사와 애니 균도 다 파유된 거래스. 배나 수고 마르지다이나 내르저베이나 그뒤네 어떤가 내들지 에너지 절람이네리 지금 서동이네리 지금 그뒤네 다 파유된 거 봐. 어디는 지금 파유된 거래 저래.
तो इसका पूरा जो है श्लोक तो पाठ नहीं होगा.
So I'll not read the whole text, but just begin this fourth chapter. In the beginning, you have this the first verse, which says that having firmly seized the awakening mind, bodhicitta, in this way, our conqueror's children must never waver. Always should they exert themselves to never stray from their practice. And so, with regard to cultivating bodhicitta, I mean, it's not enough just to have cultivated and developed bodhicitta, but you should actually train yourself in the practices that are related to the cultivation of bodhicitta, the bodhisattva practices, and that also not just for one day or month or year, but what you have actually, when you took or cultivated and generated bodhicitta in the earlier chapter, and what you have actually pledged it is you will work for sentient beings until you become enlightened. And that kind of pledge must be kept up with. I mean, you should keep up with that pledge so that you will always be careful in your dealings with others and also your conduct and on a daily basis so that you are not reckless and be conscientious about the Bodhisattva practices as you have pledged in front of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And so you should always remind yourself of what pledge you have made to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And so you should, in order to keep that pledge and engage in the practices of Bodhisattvas, you should practice conscientiousness or be careful and heed the pledge that you have made. And so it would be like when you have some injury on your body, you would be very careful not to get hurt. So that's kind of carefulness should also be. I mean, you should practice it with regard to bodhicitta. And look at the verse number 15. If you have the books,
내면이면 되도 세제 처음 매견 천이 계실 로데 륜이 탕지 녀부신 선 다들만 아니 가다 다리 가란조 다최 주발라 메콤바 차야차네 타와 chudrube tunjin jorba samegone 아니 jorba sone 대제 주수 상황시 송도가 말한소리야다 되게 가다 chudrube 내가 상부 쉬우지 아주 탑대야래 다디송이야래 다 되게 밀루 상부부터 지금 산지게 추 타고도야 배나래지 추기 되지기다 제네 예배 겁리야 다 작업해봐 되지랑 고코하제 도스 미스 동서를 치배이나 다 쇼로고 줍줍디 다게 저번 된데니 매일이게 토면 밀루 톱을 뭐주나 뜨고 버시 기와메스 제네 어디 셔서만 쏘네 다 되게 단단히 무디 다 다른 거라서 밀루 톱을 예배 겁들라 다 섭섭적으로스 친제 레뉴지 샹왕쟁게 배다 겨와 된대지기다 규모를 좀 먹어보지기 다들 남산 유몽 빵네 계획 균제도 두고 말이지 얘네 냐송로 패하게 레드 제디 아니 샤바트 자주심 ቋ미 상담이나 디디 다야디 디치기 하래 소사야디 디치기 하래 근데 인도 겨와 제마 또 이게 통왕구상 지체되기 제가 지금 밀루 도야를 전부도 잡아 여줘 얘네 전주 없으면 고민하다 돈이 있다고 공부 이하고 공부 있나 밀루 토바다 자자 다 주래
तो यहाँ पर श्लोक नंबर 15 आप देखिए सभी लोग कि भविष्य में कुछ
In verse number 15, from verse number 15 down, what is shown is basically the leisure and endowment, which refers to this human kind of perfect human kind of existence that we have gained. And it's called a leisurely existence because of being free from the 8 unleisurely states. And it's called, it's also known as that which is endowed with the opportunity, because we have the different conducive conditions to practice the Dharma in such a human life. And therefore, verse number 15 and 16 down this is shown, shows this. And so having found such a life, if you were to indulge or just spend this life in ordinary, mundane sort of things, then verse number 17 says, with behavior such as this, I shall not win a human body again. And if this human form is not attained, there will be solely wrongdoing and not virtue. And so you should always, what this shows is that you should always be cautious about how you carry about your life. I mean, carry your life about and around, and then so that you could actually restrain yourself from the negative actions which lead to lower rebirth, and you could you should use this kind of human life, perfect human life, in order to cut the karma that leads to lower realms of existence, and develop or do practice the virtuous things. I mean, do virtuous practices, which may include, such as as there was this question about called constructing Buddha statue and so forth. But the main practice that you should focus on is development of bodhicitta and the understanding of emptiness, in order to lead us out of samsara and to lead us to a higher rebirth.
अगर हम अभी बोधिचित्त प्लस शून्यता का अगर अभ्यास करते हैं तो ये निश्चित है कि आने वाले जीवन में आने वाला जो हमारा जीवन होगा उसमें कम से कम हमें मानव जीवन तो प्राप्त होगा ही, जिससे कि हम धर्म का अभ्यास कर सकें। अगर बिना बोधिचित्त का अभ्यास किए, बिना शून्यता का अभ्यास किए अगर चाहे कि हमें ये मानव शरीर पुनः मिले तो ये संभव नहीं होगा।
Then look at verse number 28.
शेदांसे सो दानने काला लाजो ये मिलास ता शेसो की न्योमो सादे रंग थमबने को दा सिम्जुल ये देबजरबा 근데 인도 न्योमो 지드자네 지금 소소 초불 중개에 소소면 되게 대샤게베 그돌에 지금 소소 셈리야 지금 차세기 디기로 정도야 소로지 शेदां게 하승인데 소소베 소소 승급 정행 소리지 용도가 이 자신처럼 오늘 쉬어요. 다 진짜는 아니 시장도 소고 디지털이야. 탐매배 자오 배 고선 타더라고 지금 진짜는 시시다 말이스. 그 심규리야 그게 해네 그게 대체 그에네 가다 랑이 풍어치기야 돼스. 단 전문이 디간기 배 풍주 속에 상황로 녀몽치기도 와. 녀도 상황 속에도 녀몽치기가 서비스하다. 다 딘디 인도잖아요. 딘딘데다 랑션 상황로 내고도 터도 나버 끈도 그게 never 쟁에 풍을 쟁에기 녀몽디 다 소수 규리야. 그게 가서 지시 녀몽을 녀몽을 껴는 통해야지다. 녀몽을 껴는 통해거나 녀몽을 녀보때야지 뭐중고도 녀몽디 코라코라베 라와를 찾아 지야지 두스되기도 와. 다게 섬로 내신도 건골 달러 내체바스. 전에 다와된 얘기다 녀몽이야. 견도 통하지 과레스. 녀몽과 시장대비 다 전부들이 주되게 와리. 다다 시장 영야디 착과되게 와리. 근데 이번 인도산에 단 전부들이 추견 상황로 차단 얘기 지기보다 세고도 와. 자, 근데 인도산에 다 소소 개를 차샤네 차단의 왕도 마송을 전에 소소배 잠지 된대지기 달러씩 바뀌체 또 스텝에 있는 소소 시디 중거리 시디디 수직 주도고 말이지. 죄송아. 대송도 가. 된대지. 된대 인도다 녀모를 녀못 된 거래. 스타디송 거래.
So verse number 28 and 28 says, although enemies such as hatred and craving have neither any arms or legs and are neither courageous nor wise, how have I, like a slave, been used by them? And so these negative emotions such as attachment, anger, and so forth have been within our mind stream and within our being since time beginningless. And they, when we experience these emotions like attachment or anger and so forth, sometimes it feels like they are our friends. We have met with our long-time friends, and in fact, when we become really angry, and it seems as if the anger is some kind of a protector for us, that it's protecting us from our enemies. But it is not like that. Although the anger and so forth do not hold any weapons like our external enemies, but they really, with kind of staying within ourselves, they're almost like at ease within ourselves. They actually disturb our peace of mind, and therefore verse number 29, the next verse says, for while they dwell within my mind at their pleasure, they cause me harm. Yet I patiently endure them without any anger. But this is inappropriate and shameful time for patience. And so what happens to us is, of course, if you look at the world itself, when you have attachment to something or somebody and so forth, then what happens from there is when something goes wrong with that person, or somebody hurts the person or so forth, then you get angry at that other person. And therefore, all the different troubles and conflicts and that are in the world are due to these two negative emotions of attachment and anger. And so what we should learn is that if we are able to stay away from or free ourselves from this anger and attachment, then there will be peace of mind within ourselves. And so rather than disturbing our mind, we'll have peace. The anger and so forth will not be able to disturb us. As long as these negative attachment, negative emotions, these disturbing emotions are within ourselves, to that extent we'll have all kinds of unwanted experiences.
लगाव की वजह से हम अपने दूसरे लोगों को अपना प्रेम नहीं दिखा पाते हैं। जब तक हमारा मन आसक्ति से विरक्त नहीं होगा तब तक हम दूसरों को मित्र के समान दोस्त के समान कभी नहीं देख सकते हैं। और आसक्ति युक्त चित्त जब तक होगा तब तक हमारे अंदर कभी भी शांति नहीं होगी।
Look at 45.
他们找鱼呢，中央呢，有些大多那些用松呢，那个蛋呢，在那吃多的，牛木这就他的那么意思。他们找连续的旁边那样，样个苦个沙巴是什么些，那么下用过来是。那个牛木找的，你不产的是蛋呢，个牛木找的这怕上边呢，拉人要嘛的是。
So, verse number 45 says that common enemies, when expelled from one country, simply retire and settle down in another, though when their strength is recovered, they then return. However, the way this enemy, my disturbing conceptions, is not similar in this respect. And so the common enemies, even if we may be able to crush them at one point, they will go to another place and find opportunity to gain strength and then come back to defeat us. Whereas regarding the negative emotions, it is not like that. Once you have overcome it, they will never come back into our mind stream. Next verse, 46.
得意来是康多中就学说送呢，我的这个牛毛写的，我们可能我们说的送牛，的呢牛毛写吃糖果的，但这里价格上的是写把的，标价上的是写把的，但刚才的全他的切开没得，但牛毛写的吃的第不着巴嘎拉写去。 녀모 당구티 녀모 니버디 갈래시 사드리 갈래시 녀모라 벽에 나눠라 녀모 사이소스도와 도와 레자게 나눠라 당구티 바카라 셴니 냠충주고 된세 다 냠충중기 녀모데스 애니 태권한이 시베 시럽기 뿡그레 사지 녀몽베 사오다 데쿨라로 중에디 녀몽 슈슈슈도 가서 쉬위 에디 녀몽사디 이네 베게 냠충주 말에 고 슈슈도 가서 주잖아 녀몽 좀보다 이네 좀보 고금도 가서 오지 그 녀몽게 랑상을 고 소스 삼단 셔버체 에니 뚱니 따와데 삼단잖아 그 녀몽고 랑신 고마 슈슈충 드라시마도 코데베 뿡르사 소스베 소스지고 뭐 메모고 뿡사차 가격 공도와 제가 냠충주에서 지송기 다디 시르 미기 방고서 시르디 컨트롤스는 디샴데 데 뇽모남데 유너면에 왕소라메 반항하면 셔서가 생기기 아니 뇽모 숙성을 깨는잖아요 뇽모인데 라기 시규나 깨대요리 다 뇽모 깨세 뇽모 내 차설 뜻소서 시규들이 시규고도 자주 잡아이나 니가 견에 매대버지 시번 대버리니 대사래 요말에 마음거리 기규래 다 다다의 시베 간 싸움다 요래 다다의 시베서 싸움다면 이네 지정아도 뒤숨 샤야 돼 가고도가 대바다 마음고 다다와를 떼내 샤고래 다다와디 파 싸움다나 제가 대버리 제가 마음거리 다다와 민두가 지 뒤숨을 다들 자는 얘기면 번는시 그래서 시베규 대마음 다들 좀 집에 있는 냠도가 근데 인도 뇽모 예서로고 시베규디 가는 요래 시베규 거라 냠에 차요인데 다 뇽모고 슈슈 그게 즉 속도로 즉 슉슉부디 민도가 다 뇽모 정신을 따네 어다 딘이 균자 디시닝러 직교 말에 디시닝러 직봉 시실 잡아댄스 어다 디게 어다 바율로 다 조조데 예 방 매버칭에디 뇽몽치기 알아 되는데 금들이야 뇽몽발라 녀부단다지 송이 버리 And Tadishashanta.
तो यहाँ पर श्लोक नंबर 46 में देखिए
So 46, verse number 46
भाषा में न्योनमोंग 2 बार आया है तो
says in the Tibetan version, now here, according to Master Khunnu Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen Rinpoche, in the Sanskrit version of the text, the first term which is given in Tibetan is Nyemong. Here it's translated, I think, as deluded, but the Nyemong here is a term for being feeble. And the term in Sanskrit is Bhagara for the first Nyemong in Tibetan, whereas the second Nyemong is the usual disturbing conceptions or disturbing emotions, which is kleshas. And so, according to Khunnu Lama Rinpoche, the first Nyemong or Bhagara in Sanskrit refers to something feeble or poor, and the second one is the klesha, which is disturbing conceptions. And I told at that time when I was receiving teaching from Khunnu Lama Rinpoche that these disturbing emotions are very powerful, aren't they? And he said, no, they are feeble because in order to destroy them, you don't need atom bombs. And so this is that's why the negative emotions do not need to gather all these weapons and armies and so forth in order to help them destroy us. And therefore, what we can do is through the understanding of the suchness or reality of how things are, we can destroy these negative emotions. And And so what happens with us is that negative emotions are within our own mind stream, which means that it is within our continuum. And so if we look at the negative emotions within our continuum, and if even at the consciousness or mind stream itself, we can actually talk about the past consciousness, present and future. But past is already gone and future is yet to come. But even regarding the present, it's like if you really look at the present moment of consciousness closely, what you'll find is that moment you look at it, half of it is gone and half is yet to come. And so there's nothing that you can actually pinpoint as being this present moment of consciousness as such. And therefore, you'll see that the consciousness itself has no independent or concrete or solid existence as such. And in this way, the text says deluded or the feeble, disturbing conceptions, when forsaken by the eye of wisdom and dispelled from the mind, where will it go? And so it stays nowhere else. And where will you dwell in order to be able to endure when me again later, weak-minded, I have been reduced to making no effort?
तो चौथे अध्याय उसका ये तरह के सार के रूप में समझें कि सावधानी किस तरह से बरतनी चाहिए। जब हम बोध चित्त का उत्पाद करें तो उस समय सावधानी कैसे बरतनी चाहिए। तो आज का सत्र यहाँ पर समाप्त होता है।
So with this, today's teaching is done.
कल जो है जब
And
सुबह
so
आएंगे
tomorrow
तो
we'll
बोध चित्त
also do
उत्पाद
the
करने की जो
Bodhisattva ceremony.
Okay. Thank you. Good night. Good night.